My wife's divorced friends convinced her to pull a fake affair prank on me to test my loyalty and make me more attentive, but it backfired completely when I chose to file for divorce instead. That my decision to file for divorce spectacularly backfired on them. Sarah and I had been married 8 years. Things were good, if not perfect. We both worked, had our routines, weekend plans, and monthly date nights. I thought we were fine, comfortable, like a normal married couple. But Sarah had been confiding in her divorced friends, who convinced her I wasn't attentive enough and she needed to make me fight for her. I learned this devastating truth only after the fact. While I endured literal hell, believing she was cheating, she was meticulously planning this scheme with her bitter friends, who seemed to resent anyone else's decent marriage. 6 weeks ago, Sarah started acting drastically different. She worked late constantly, returning home with a guilty yet excited, secretive look. When questioned, she'd become vague and change the subject. She dressed nicer for work, took longer getting ready, and wore perfume, all new behaviors. I initially thought she was planning a surprise, but then came texts at odd hours. She'd snatch her phone, flip it over, and when I asked who it was, she'd get flustered, claiming work stuff or her sister. Then, she came home near midnight, smelling of men's cologne, her lipstick smudged. She mumbled about hugging someone goodbye, but couldn't look me in the eye. I'm not an idiot. I know what it means when someone's been kissing. After that, I paid closer attention, and the signs multiplied. She took calls in other rooms, hanging up quickly when I entered. She did laundry more often, acting weirdly about certain clothes. She started showering immediately after work, which was unusual. And she kept mentioning a new coworker, Jake, how funny he was, how he helped her. The Jake mentions really bothered me. She'd bring him up, then catch herself. When I pressed for details, she'd insist he was just a coworker. But she'd already shared too much. He rides a motorcycle, is recently divorced, and loves rock climbing. These were personal details you don't typically know about random colleagues. I tried discussing her distance, but she dismissed my concerns as paranoia, claiming stress and needing space. The more space I gave, the worse it got, and the more obvious something was happening. I don't bury my head in the sand. The breaking point came 2 weeks ago. She claimed dinner with her sister, but I saw her sister at the grocery store, who had no plans with Sarah. That's when I knew she was lying, likely meeting Jake. I confronted her that night, asking directly if she was having an affair. She became distraught, crying and insisting she loved me, but couldn't explain her whereabouts or why she'd lied. When someone can't give a straight answer to something so simple, they're hiding something big. I didn't sleep. The signs, the lies. How she'd treated me like an idiot for weeks. It all replayed. I realized I couldn't live constantly wondering if my wife was faithful. I needed the truth or an end. The limbo was killing me. I started planning to hire a private investigator, needing proof before anything drastic. I even researched divorce lawyers, preparing for the worst-case scenario. My life uprooted because of her affair. Then, last Tuesday, everything changed. I learned the truth in the most shocking way. Sarah's friend, Lisa, called me completely drunk and rambling about how proud she was of Sarah for taking their advice to make me jealous, and how it was working. I had no idea what she meant, so I pressed her. That's when it all came out. Sarah and her divorced friends, Lisa, Monica, and Jennifer, had been planning this fake affair for months to make me more attentive and romantic. They'd convinced Sarah that to make a man appreciate what he has, you must make him think he might lose it. The most twisted logic I'd ever heard. Lisa admitted they'd even helped Sarah fabricate details about Jake, who was a real coworker, but someone Sarah barely knew. They coached her to act suspicious and secretive to make me believe she was cheating. They thought it was hilarious that their plan was working and I was acting like a jealous husband. I hung up, stunned. Relief washed over me. She wasn't cheating. Then confusion. Why would someone do this? Finally, blinding rage. My wife had deliberately tortured me for weeks. When Sarah came home, I told her Lisa had spilled everything. Her face went white. She cried, apologized, claiming it was a silly joke that went too far, and she was going to tell me soon anyway. But I was too angry to speak. Pretending to cheat isn't a joke. It's emotional abuse, I told her. She tried to explain her. Friends convinced her our marriage was stale, and I took her for granted. She just wanted attention. She even said the plan worked because I'd been more affectionate. This only fueled my anger because she was right. I had been trying harder, thinking I was losing her. I told her what she'd done was sick and manipulative. Instead of talking, she chose to make me suffer, watching me lose sleep and weight, miserable each day, thinking my marriage was falling apart. She just kept saying she was sorry. But this wasn't a mistake or a bad joke. It was a calculated campaign to mess with my head, and it worked precisely as planned. Sarah watched me, suspicious and worried, knowing she was causing it. The more I thought, the angrier I became. Every time I questioned her distance, she made me feel paranoid. Every time I asked about late work or texts, she acted like I was controlling, all while knowing her behavior was designed to make me feel exactly that way. The worst part? Her friends found this funny. They enjoyed watching me suffer doubt, myself, and my marriage. They likely gossiped and laughed about how gullible I was. And Sarah was part of it all. She actively participated in making me the butt of their joke. I told Sarah I needed time to think, but I knew I couldn't stay. I frantically packed, dropping most at storage before heading to my brother's. I couldn't stop thinking, could I ever trust her again? If she could lie for weeks, watch me suffer, and justify it because her friends told her to, what else was she capable of? My family thinks I'm overreacting, that I should forgive her because she wasn't actually cheating and just wanted attention. But they don't understand the weeks of hell, believing my wife was betraying me. The emotional damage from thinking someone you love is cheating is the same, whether it's fake or real. I kept imagining her with Jake, wondering what I'd done wrong, planning how to divide our life. This mental torture was completely unnecessary, caused by someone claiming to love me. 4 days later, I made up my mind. I saw a divorce lawyer. He said emotional abuse and manipulation were definite grounds, and what Sarah did showed a fundamental lack of respect. I went home and told Sarah I'd filed. She lost it, screaming, begging, promising anything, vowing never to listen to her friends again. But I told her the lesson was not to torture your spouse for entertainment, a lesson adults shouldn't need. She enlisted our parents to convince me. Arguing divorce was too extreme. We needed counseling. But I don't want to be married to someone who emotionally manipulates me and then acts like I'm unreasonable for not appreciating it. Lisa and Monica even had the nerve to call me, saying I was too sensitive. It was a harmless prank, and Sarah had learned her lesson. I told them if they thought what they did was harmless, they were more messed up than I thought, and had probably destroyed my marriage for their own amusement because they couldn't stand seeing someone else happy. Lisa got defensive, saying Sarah complained I wasn't romantic enough, and they were just trying to help. I said if Sarah had problems, she should have talked to me, not conspired with bitter friends to play mind games. The infuriating thing is, Sarah still doesn't get why it was so wrong. She focuses on it being fake, as if that makes it better. She doesn't grasp the emotional impact was identical, and doing it on purpose makes it worse. I've been at my brother's for 2 weeks. Sarah constantly texts, begging me home, emailing about her mistake, and wanting counseling. But trust can't be rebuilt after this. How do I know she won't test me again? Everyone asks if I'm throwing away 8 years over one incident. It's not one incident. It's weeks of calculated deception and the realization my wife thinks so little of me, she put me through hell for attention. The divorce papers were served yesterday. Sarah called, sobbing, begging me to reconsider, promising to cut contact with her friends. I told her the problem isn't her friends. It's that she thought their idea was good. Some think I'm harsh, but I can't forget those weeks of anxiety, her watching me suffer, knowing exactly why. I can't get past it. If she'd come clean sooner, maybe. But she let it go on for weeks, and would have let it go longer if Lisa hadn't gotten drunk. It tells me everything about who she really is. So, that's where things are. I'm getting divorced. Everyone thinks I'm crazy for leaving over a harmless prank. But I know it wasn't harmless. It was a betrayal of everything marriage stands for. I won't spend my life wondering about her next test. I am justified. Update 1. Wow, I didn't expect this to blow up. The comments and messages have been incredibly validating. Many asked for more details about Sarah's actions and her friends' involvement. Writing this out is therapeutic, so I'll fill in some gaps. Sarah's friend group. Lisa, divorced 2 years ago, husband cheated. Monica, divorced twice, constantly complains about current boyfriend. And Jennifer, separated last year, divorce finalized recently. They have wine night Thursdays, which is really just complaining about men and relationships. I used to encourage Sarah to go, thinking it was harmless. But now I see these women poison her against me for months, telling her I was too comfortable and she needed to shake things up to remind me what she could lose. The specifics of Sarah's actions over those 6 weeks were worse than I initially stated. She started working out more and buying new clothes. When I complimented her, she'd act mysterious, saying she was just trying to feel better, making me think she was trying to look good for someone else. She also became unusually critical of me, my clothes, my haircut, why I never planned surprise dates. At the time, I thought it was a midlife thing. Now I know it was a script from her friends to make me insecure. The fake calls and texts were all orchestrated. Lisa and Monica would text and call at random times so Sarah could act secretive. They even researched Jake on social media, his motorcycle, hobbies, so Sarah had authentic details. But the most disturbing part, Sarah told me they had a whole timeline. They planned for 2 to 3 months, with escalating suspicious behavior to make me more jealous. Phase 1, distant, secretive. Phase 2, fake texts/calls, late work. Phase 3, actually going out late, obvious signs of being with someone else. Phase 4, disappearing for entire nights, letting me think she was having full-blown affairs. Thank God Lisa got drunk and ruined their plan before phases 3 and 4. I was barely coping with phases 1 and 2. Sarah also admitted they were taking pictures and videos of her, documenting my upset and worry, and how their plan was working. They thought it was hilarious I started bringing flowers and planning dates to save our marriage. That might be the most messed up part. They literally documented my pain as entertainment, and Sarah actively participated, reporting my reactions to each new lie. Many asked if Sarah enjoyed it. Looking back, I think she did. She seemed energized and excited. During those weeks, a way I hadn't seen in years. I thought it was another man, but now I think it was the manipulation. She'd come home with a secretive smile, watching me try to figure out what was different, giving just enough info to keep me guessing. I definitely caught her looking amused by my anxiety. I also found out her friends coached her on gaslighting. When I confronted her about lying about her sister, they taught her to turn it around, making me feel guilty for not trusting her, for being paranoid. When I asked about her distance, they told her to make me feel needy and clingy, that I needed to give her space. This entire thing was a coordinated psychological attack, designed to make me doubt myself and feel like the problem. The more details I learn, the angrier I get, and the more certain I am about the divorce. This wasn't an innocent prank. It was a deliberate campaign to emotionally abuse me for their entertainment. Sarah leaves voicemails daily, begging me to reconsider, promising never to speak to those friends again, to make this right. But the damage is done. Her parents and sister call, asking me to give her another chance, saying she learned her lesson. But this wasn't a mistake. It was a choice, made every day for 6 weeks, with multiple chances to stop. Her sister called me cruel for not talking it out. I told her what's cruel is watching your spouse suffer knowing you're causing it. The divorce is moving forward. I feel more at peace every day, especially realizing how planned this was. The woman I thought I married doesn't exist. The real Sarah thinks it's acceptable to torture the person she claims to love. Some ask if I'll regret it. No, I'm finally seeing clearly. I deserve better. Update 2. Things have gotten even crazier. I don't know whether to laugh or scream. Sarah apparently decided begging wasn't working, so she's now claiming the fake affair was my fault. She texted me yesterday, saying she'd been dropping hints for months about wanting more romance. I ignored them, so she had no choice but to do something drastic. She actually said, "You forced me to fake an affair." Insane. According to her new story, it wasn't a prank, but a legitimate attempt to communicate her needs because I failed to pick up on subtle attempts. She genuinely believes this was justified because I hadn't met her emotional needs. My lawyer just shook his head. He's never seen someone dig themselves a deeper hole. Now, instead of admitting fault, she's justifying it and blaming me. But wait, it gets worse. Sarah's telling other friends and coworkers that I'm divorcing her because she tried to spice up our marriage, and I'm being unreasonably jealous and controlling. My friend Dave, who works with Sarah, pulled me aside yesterday. People at Sarah's office are talking about me divorcing her over harmless flirting and jealousy games, thinking I'm overreacting. Dave knew this wasn't right, so I told him the truth. He was shocked. Sarah had described it as playful teasing, not psychological manipulation. Now I'm dealing with her actively rewriting history, making me look like the bad guy. I'm sure her divorced friends are backing her up. I decided to protect myself, so I saved all the voicemails she left right after I found out. Her crying, apologizing, admitting it was fake. I'll need proof when she tries to make me the villain. Speaking of her friends, Lisa sobered up and realized she blew up their scheme. She called to do damage control, trying to convince me it wasn't that bad. But she only made it worse, revealing even more details about how planned this was. She said they'd planned it for 3 months, researching ways to make men jealous, choosing the fake affair as most effective. She also mentioned they were documenting everything in a group chat, sharing updates on my reactions, celebrating each time their plan made me anxious or attentive. They called it Project Wake Up Call. It makes me sick. But here's what really made my blood boil. Lisa said they were disappointed it took me so long to confront Sarah, thinking I'd get jealous sooner. They wondered if I didn't care enough to fight for her. So, they not only tortured me for 6 weeks, they were critiquing my performance as a worried husband, wondering if I'd react strongly enough to make their experiment worthwhile. Like, I was a lab rat not performing. Lisa also mentioned Monica suggested pushing it further, Sarah actually going on a fake date just to see how far they could push me before I snapped. Thankfully, they decided it was too risky, fearing I'd hire a private investigator. The fact they even considered that shows their absolute lack of boundaries or decency. They would have destroyed my mental health if their own stupidity hadn't stopped them. I also found out Sarah's parents knew something was up. She'd asked them for advice on making me more romantic, but told them she was just planning surprises. They had no idea she was faking an affair. When they found out after I filed, they were horrified, telling Sarah it was unacceptable. But they're still trying to convince me to give her another chance. Her dad called yesterday, saying he understood my anger, but divorce seemed extreme. I told him his daughter's actions were extreme, and my reaction was proportionate to the damage. I added that if a stranger had done this, he'd want me to press charges. The fact it was his daughter doesn't make it less harmful or twisted. He didn't have an answer. I think he's starting to grasp this isn't just a marital spat. Divorce proceedings are moving quickly since we have no kids and simple finances. I just want it over so I can rebuild my life without her trying to manipulate the narrative. I'm moving to a new part of town to avoid her and her friends. Some ask if I miss Sarah or regret it. I miss the person I thought she was, not who she turned out to be. I'm relieved I found out before kids or a house. I keep thinking, what if Lisa hadn't gotten drunk? How long would Sarah have let me suffer? The woman I thought I married would never have watched me endure that pain without telling me. But the real Sarah watched me lose weight and sleep, live, in constant anxiety, and not only felt no remorse, she enjoyed it and reported back to her friends. That's not someone I want to be married to, or can ever trust. I'm done feeling guilty for protecting myself from someone who clearly doesn't have my best interests at heart. Update 3. I thought I was done, but something unbelievable happened yesterday. It's like Sarah and her friends are determined to prove they're even worse than I thought. The divorce is finalizing next week, and I thought the drama was over, apart from Sarah's occasional pleas. But her friends made one last attempt. Monica called yesterday, wanting to meet about Sarah and working things out. Against my better judgment, I agreed, curious. At the coffee shop, Monica apologized for her role, admitting it was a mistake. I thought she might take responsibility. But then she said she had a confession that might change how I felt about divorcing Sarah. She looked serious, like a big secret was coming. What she said next was so ridiculous I laughed. Monica claimed their fake affair plan was because Sarah suspected I was cheating. Sarah had supposedly confided in them, worried for months because I worked late, changed my phone password, and went to the gym more. Monica said they suggested the fake affair to test my loyalty. If I was cheating, I wouldn't care if Sarah seemed to be. If I was faithful, I'd get jealous and fight, proving I loved her. I just stared. This was obvious nonsense. I asked why Sarah never mentioned being suspicious during our divorce talks or her apologies. Monica flustered, saying Sarah was embarrassed to accuse me without proof. But I know this is complete BS. I've never cheated, never been tempted. Her red flags are normal life stuff. Deadlines, a new phone password, doctor-recommended exercise. Sarah never acted worried about any of this. Monica is making this up to make Sarah look like the victim. I told Monica her story made no sense, and she was rewriting history. She got defensive, claiming Sarah really was worried. Then she said even if Sarah's suspicions were wrong, the fake affair worked because it made me more attentive, and our marriage might have been stronger if I hadn't overreacted. I told her our marriage would have been stronger if Sarah had talked to me instead of conspiring with bitter friends to psychologically torture me. The fact she thought lying and manipulation were better options than honest communication told me everything about her and her friends. I stood to leave, telling Monica to lose my number and tell Sarah and her friends to do the same. I said the only person I wanted to hear from was my lawyer, and their attempts to manipulate me further only solidified my decision. I walked out, leaving her stunned. I drove, trying to process their latest lie. They went from harmless prank to you forced her to do it to we were testing your loyalty. It was a masterclass in deflection and gaslighting, almost impressive. In its depravity, they were so committed to their narrative, they'd invent new realities to avoid responsibility. I'm done being their joke. The punchline is that I'm finally free. Update 4. It's finally done. After 8 months of the most ridiculous, drawn-out nonsense imaginable, the divorce is final. 8 months, and every single day, Sarah or her. Genius, friends found a new way to make me question my sanity. But I'm on the other side now, and honestly, I'm just numb. Last update. Monica tried that garbage about testing my loyalty, and I thought that was the peak of their insanity. I was wrong. For months, Sarah's strategy morphed into a mix of playing the victim and sending formal, emotionless emails through her lawyer, like she wasn't the same person sobbing in voicemails weeks earlier. One minute, she's telling mutual friends how I abandoned her. The next, her lawyer demands a fondue pot wedding gift. Her parents kept trying to mediate, which was just them asking me to forgive and forget. I told her dad straight up, marriage is hard, yes. But what your daughter did wasn't marriage. It was a sick game, and I'm not playing anymore. I think that finally got through. They backed off. And get this, for the final mediation, Sarah brought Jennifer, one of the architects of Project Wake Up Call, for emotional support. Jennifer sat there with a smug look, like a relationship expert. I just looked at my lawyer and said I wouldn't speak with that woman in the room. The mediator had to ask her to leave. Sarah acted like I committed a grave crime for not wanting one of my psychological torturers present while dividing assets. You can't make this up. The day the papers were finalized was weird. I got the email from my lawyer, and that was it. I'm still at my brother's, but looking for my own place. I needed to decompress, not be in that shared house. I know I did the right thing, no doubt. But it's still hard to accept this is my life now. Divorced at 36 because my wife and her friends thought emotional abuse would spice up our marriage. It's still the most insane thing I've ever lived through, and I'm just glad it's finally over.